What's going on, movie fans? James Patrick here with another ranked video. And in this video, we're going to be ranking the final girls from every iteration of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So there are 9 films that we looked at. We had already ranked the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films themselves. And this is our sidecar ranking where we are ranking the final girls from each of these movies. Now, what's really cool is that I found one of my favorite final girls, not just from this series, but from any horror franchise. So excited to get to that. But with all of our ranked videos, we got to start at the bottom, the absolute worst. So coming in at last place, number 9 is the character Lizzie. Now, this is from Leatherface. And, I had talked when we did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series ranking how convoluted this franchise was. 3 different timelines, a lot of name changes between characters, but also you have a lot of movies named the same thing. This was one of the 2 movies named Leatherface. This is from 2017. The biggest problem with this is it was so impossible to distinguish between any characters or really care about any characters. But this character in particular, close to a final girl as we have, which is Lizzie. She's a nurse who happens to fall in love with this character named Jackson, who lo and behold becomes Leatherface. Not that interesting. And then she doesn't survive. So sorry, Lizzie, you're way at the bottom. All right, moving up to number 8, we have the sisters. I actually had to get on Google and look up their names. It's Melody and Lila. Um, once again, we really have a character problem in this movie. They're very annoying, very stereotypical, and just very unlikable characters. So it's really hard to root for them or get behind them. Lila's whole disposition is to be moody. That's really it. Like her entire personification is summed up as just moody. Whereas the Melody character changes personas between the first act and the second act without any real arc or any real transition. Just all of a sudden, oh, I'm going to go from being a snotty character to a sad character, just like that. It's really difficult to care about either of these characters, to root for either of these characters. There's no clear protagonist in this movie. And one of them, it really doesn't matter which one, but one of them ends up with a little decapitation problem at the end. But in this movie, everyone kind of sucked. Okay, moving up to number 7, we have Chrissy from Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, one of the many alternate timelines that we have in this franchise. I mean, they even got Jordana Brewster to play Chrissy, and even Jordana Brewster could not save her. They cast Jordana Brewster because they're like, hey, who can we get that kind of emulates the vibes of Jessica Biel, that gives that Jessica Biel star power, but is not obviously Jessica Biel? Let's get Jordana Brewster, but let's give her a character that has no real defining qualities. There's nothing you can say that's memorable about this character. Nothing unique, nothing interesting, just a very plain vanilla character in a very boring, uninteresting movie. However, that being said, she doesn't make it to the end of the movie, but her death scene at the end is really, really cool. But hey, I can't rank you that high as a final girl if you don't make it to the final of the movie. All right, moving up to number 6. Hey, we're into the survivors now. At least everyone from this part on survives to the end of the movie. We have Jenny from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation, which is just like, hey, what if Texas Chainsaw Massacre happened on prom night? This is a very whiny, very unintelligent, very confused, perplexed character. I mean, the photo that we're showing is pretty much her disposition, the full length and run of this film. And her surviving this movie isn't really attributed to her cunningness or her savviness or her willingness to fight. Eh, at best, just luck and timing. The fact that the Sawyer family was kind of tearing itself apart and she was just able to slip through the cracks. Not that likable of a character, not that interesting of a character. in what was really just not that fun of a movie to watch. Okay, moving up to number 5, we have Heather, and this is from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. And okay, I understand that this movie had some really cringe dialogue, namely from her character. Um, and I understand the premise is weird. Like, hey, what if Leatherface was just misunderstood? Which is like mind-boggling to think, contrasted with what he did in the original movie. But this is kind of a fun movie to watch, and this is a really fun character to get into. She's not an unlikable character, and the actress that played her, Alexandra Daddario, did a really good job. This is a fun movie to watch, and this is a fun character to get into. So, kind of middle of the road, leaning in towards the top. But at number 5, we have Heather. Okay, moving on to number 4, and I'm sorry, please don't throw heat my way for this, but is Sally from the original film. I understand that this is an iconic role, and I understand that final scene of her screaming and that screaming kind of phasing in and morphing into this laughing. I mean, that is one of the most terrifying and one of the most memorable scenes, not just in horror movies, horror movie history, but in really in cinema. Period. It is an iconic role. But as a final girl, how good was Sally? She didn't really do much to advance the plot. She didn't have an arc. She didn't have to overcome anything. She didn't change at all in the movie. She pretty much was able to escape a little bit through luck, a little bit through timing or just ineptitude of the family themselves. She was able to escape. Um and because she was so iconic, she is ranked higher than most, but she wasn't that much of a there wasn't that much of anything proactive or um uh there was no evolution to her character in this. There was no arc. So because some of the other characters definitely had that, we do have to rank Sally at 4. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Some of you might stop watching now, but I assure you there's reasons for the top 3. Moving on to number 3, we have Jessica Biel, who plays Erin. This is in the reboot. The thing I like about Erin is she's quite savvy. I mean, in the beginning, she's funny and she's a little serious, and there's a sternness to her with kind of like a blend of lightheartedness as well. But she has to dig really deep, and she actually gets really dark. Even ends up sacrificing one of her friends to put him out of his misery. So there's a nice balance here of someone who's clearly terrified, of someone who's clearly an ordinary person put in extraordinary circumstances and having to be really cunning and creative and have to fight her way out of that. And I think Jessica Biel did a great job in this. And you just have this really nice arc of this character. So at number 3, you have Erin, played by Jessica Biel. All right. Number 2, you have Michelle, and this is from Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. I had no real recollection of this movie prior to rewatching it. This is such a fun movie. I mean, it's a movie of its time. It is so 1990, including like a heavy metal montage. Um, it is a movie of its time, but Michelle is pretty badass in this movie. She's smart. She's savvy, she's cunning, and towards the end of it, she becomes stone cold. I mean, that line that she delivers right at the end, "There's roadkill all over Texas," that is so good. This is a character that subverted expectations, that has a phenomenal arc that goes from one person at the beginning of the movie to someone completely transformed at the end of the movie, and it is absolutely delightful. This is just a fun movie to watch and rewatch. I absolutely love Michelle. So at number 2, we have Michelle, which leaves us to number 1. And like I said at the top of this video, this is not just someone who is my favorite final girl of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. This is one of my favorite final girls, period. We got Stretch from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. First off, amazing arcs. Number 2 is this is one of the most proactive final girls you will ever see. She's a radio DJ who is put into circumstances that she learns details about this about this family and about these murders and about these deaths. And she proactively goes to investigate it. She partners up with Lefty, played by Dustin Hoffman, but she has a willingness to get involved, a willingness to put herself at risk, to put herself in danger, but that's not because she is fearless. She is so fearful. And the actress that plays her does such a phenomenal job of portraying that fear, but having to push through that fear to do things that are seemingly impossible in order to survive. I mean, she even grabs a chainsaw herself and attacks the Sawyer family herself. This is the ultimate BA. This is the ultimate final girl. Legions above all the others. Stretch from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Chef's kiss of Final Girls. Absolutely outstanding. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know your rankings. Once again, I apologize. I did not rank Sally higher. I'm sorry. Please forgive me for that. Love to know your rankings. Put them in the comment section below. As always, appreciate your subscriptions to the channel. We'll catch you all on the next screening. Take care, everyone.